Hi, Nancy.
Hi.
Let's begin with some introduction. Tell me, who are you?
I am a volunteer at Russian House, and I used to be a social worker a long time ago, and I was a photographer, and now I'm retired, and I'm a gardener, and I live nearby.
And as I understand, you have experience of living in community for many years.
20 years.
20 years.
Well, 20 years in one community, and 2.5 years in kibbutz, and then some other living. You know, I've lived pretty much communally most of my adult life.
Can you tell how it's happened? Why you decided?
Well, the first experience I had with it was when I went to Israel when I was 20, and I didn't know what to expect, and I just was planning to stay a couple of months, and I stayed 2.5 years because it was amazing, and I loved it, and I lived on 3 different kibbutzim, and I learned the language, and I worked with children, and I worked in all different things. I worked in the cotton fields and in the dairy and with the chickens, and you know, it was just so fun and exciting.
It was when it was?
In the 70s. I was there during the Yom Kippur War, so that was, I think, 73.
Yom Kippur War. So you haven't been in a war? You've been just
I was
before.
there in the war.
You was
yes.
there in the war?
I was 1 kilometer from the Jordanian border during the war.
1 kilometer from the border.
So we stayed in the bomb shelters at night, and all the men were gone from the kibbutz. It was all just women and maybe 3 men left. And
you haven't been afraid?
I wasn't really afraid.
Why?
I don't know why.
No bombing on your place?
Yes, you could hear the bombing, and there were terrorists around, you know, and but I wasn't afraid. I don't know. I trusted the people I was with to know what they were doing, and they seemed to know what they were doing, and I just wasn't afraid. Maybe I was too stupid to be afraid. I was just a kid, you know.
And why you decided to go to Israel, to kibbutz?
Well, I was traveling with my boyfriend for 9 months in Europe, and then he wanted to go back to the States and get married, and I didn't want to.
On you? To marry with you?
Yes, and I didn't want to do that. So I found out that to go to Israel was only $50.
With him?
No, by myself. Once I got to Israel, I knew that I could work on a kibbutz and it would be free, because he'd paid for everything. You know, I didn't have any money. I was just...
So you came to Israel just because you had no money?
Right. And I didn't. And my friend John Schwartz had been there, and he liked it. And I didn't know anything.
So no kind of ideology
No.
idea?
No.
And you are not Jewish?
No. But I fell in love with it. I just loved it, and they were so good to me.
What did you love?
The people were so real, and they were so genuine, and they cared for each other. The community was amazing.
What was the main interesting experience in those times?
Oh, I have one really great story. There are many, but this is the best story. I had diarrhea one day, and I worked in with the chickens, and I couldn't go to work. I was very sick, and so I called over there, and the woman who answered the phone was a 50-year-old kibbutznik, and she gave me a hard time. This woman, and she was like an old school kibbutznik. She'd been there forever. She was, you know.
Yeah.
And she gave me a hard time, and I said, I'm sorry, I can't help it. I'm not going to I can't come, and I'm not coming. And so then I got better, and I went back to work, and then she was kind of, and then there was a party, and I went to the party, and I was just, you know, wandering around the party, you know, and then all of a sudden I see she comes in the room, and this whole group of people went over to her and surrounded her and were talking to her, and then she came across the room and extended her hand and
to you,
to me, and apologized to me. I was nobody.
Okay.
I was nobody. I was a not Jewish, a volunteer, you know, nothing.
Okay, I
And
understand.
the community insisted that she treat me right. And I was
And
just
they
doing
found you've been in several kibbutzim.
three
Three.
different ones. Yeah.
Which one?
Re'im, Neve Ur, and Bet Alpha. Bet Alpha is a big one. That's the one.
Left.
Again, marriage. If I stayed, I was with a man, and they wanted me to get married. I didn't want to get married.
Why?
I wasn't. It didn't feel right. It just never felt like I wanted to do that. I mean, it felt like a very big decision, and I didn't want to do it.
Kibbutz didn't give you any money.
Oh, they took everything. They were so mad at me for leaving. That's when they really
Really?
got. Yes, they got mad
This
at me
is
then.
also interesting.
They took my camera. They took my sleeping bag. They made it hard for me to leave. They wanted me to stay.
Because your personal attitude towards you, or just the rules?
No, I was a good worker. You know what I am.
Okay.
I'm a good worker. I think that was it, pretty much. They know that I was competent, and I cared.
And they didn't give you any money during your.
Oh, we all got a little bit of an allowance.
Yeah.
You know, like we got cigarettes and a few bucks, but that's it. But it was fine. I didn't care.
Yeah, I understand.
But I come back to the United States with nothing, pretty much nothing. That was scary. And then I moved to Atlanta to become a photographer, which I did. I did that for 23 years. And I lived communally in all these places.
In New Jersey.
In New Jersey, and then in Atlanta. In Atlanta, it was a big community, in a very structured community. The other ones were more like, sort of just people happened to live together, but this one was the one in Atlanta was based on a community here, the Moore community in Lafayette, California, and it had certain structure to it. It was an intentional community with rules and like that. And I did that for 20 years.
20 years in Atlanta in this community.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And intentional when they agree on some common intention.
Yeah, there's agreements about how things would go.
Okay, so what was...
Some of the agreements?
Yeah, what was intentional community in Atlanta?
It was the main thing was don't do anything you don't want to do. Fun is the goal, love is the way.
Let's discuss first one. Don't do anything you don't want to do. If you do something you don't want to do, you will be sacrificed or what?
Yeah, it's like you're gonna torture somebody. If you do something you don't want to do, you're gonna be tortured, or you're gonna torture somebody. It's not gonna work out. So just either want to do it, or change your mind to want to do it, or don't do it. But don't do something and then complain about it. If you do something and then complain about it, nobody wants to hear that. That's not, so it's like people do what they want to do.
What about if people has kind of inner separation? They feel that they want and don't want it in the same time. Like, for example, they want in deep soul, but they're so afraid of that they think that they don't want usually what's happening.
Well, then they got to figure that out. They got to figure it out, because nobody in the community wants to hear, I did that, but I didn't want to do it, or I didn't, none of that. No victims allowed. You just do what you want to do, and if somebody's asking you to do something that you don't want to do, don't do it.
So, like, if you tell me clean the dishes, and I will go clean the dishes, and then I will tell you, oh, I'm so tired for cleaning dishes, something like that. So you would not listen to me.
Right.
Right. So you will think that it was my own responsibility to follow.
Well,
your,
either do it or don't do it, but
Don't
don't complain.
Don't
'Cause,
complain.
You know, it's not about this is your life, your choice. You do what you want. You know, okay. So here's an example of that.
Okay.
So when I was very new in the community, and I had been busy all the time. I had no time to myself, and at one point I was at the gym with this group of people, and one of the women says to me, "Nancy, we have to go shopping, and nobody has the time to do it. Can you go and do the shopping?" And my immediate response was, "I don't want to do the shopping," but then I thought, "Oh, I get a minute to myself if I do this shopping." So I changed my mind totally because I wanted to say, you know, it's like, I wanted to say yes. So then when I said yes, I got to go and have some alone time. So, but it was about me, you know, changing my mind. And
Okay.
and so that's what it was like that a lot.
Okay. For example, today what's happened between